brother has been in the hospital. This is going on his third week. I know he's never been. He's had some serious surgeries and stuff, but this stuff is crazy. He's got something going on with the ears. They can't find out what it is.
What is the
But he literally
Wait a minute.
3 years.
District 4. District 4.
Good afternoon. I hereby call this January 16th meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. As always, I know the members of this council are in agreement. Our first unofficial order of business is always to thank our police department, our fire department, and our emergency management departments for the work that you do to keep the folks in our community safe. We take this time to say thank you. Here we are. We certainly appreciate you. Items on the consent agenda are usually approved with one sweeping motion unless a member of this committee or council asks that an item to be pulled for consideration. Members of the committee, are there any items that we should pull for consideration? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please vote yes. Opposers, no. And that is unanimous. We'll move to, we have a need to move to item G2, and then we'll go back to item G1. Committee members, Madam Clerk, if we can call item G2, please.
Item G2, information pertaining to the Police Department grant application for continued funding of the Forsyth County DWI Task Force.
Ms. Tony. Or is there someone else who will be doing the presentation? Chief Allen.
I'm sorry, I
It's quite all right.
was not aware of this item. Let me pull up the info here. I'm sorry. My apologies, Councilmember Taylor and the rest of the council for being unprepared of this. I was not aware of this item. Essentially, this is a information item. We participate, as you are aware, for many years now with the DWI Task Force. It's made up of members of our department, Kernersville Police Department, and the Sheriff's Department. That is funded through a grant program by the state, and part of our responsibility with that is to provide officers and then to also conduct certain checkpoints and provide certain data to the state as well. This task force has always been successful. We've won numerous awards. The Forsyth County Task Force has won numerous awards and issued many different citations and made a lot of arrests and keeping our community safe. So again, the grant, as listed in the information item there, funding will not exceed 25% of the task force personnel expenses, and we have provided this for many years. I apologize for being unprepared on that.
Well, the good thing about this, it's an information item. We could always go back, bring more information back. Members of the committee, council, are there any questions? Councilmember Larson.
I'm extremely impressed that we're seizing, what, $4.617 million worth of firearms, drugs, and illegal currency in these stops. It's a lot of seizure, isn't it? According to the graph, not counting the citations and speeding citations, DUI citations that are issued as a result of this team. 516 drivers courses are taught for drunk driving. 20,000 individuals are instructed on driving drug DUI prevention courses. But what struck me as really strange about this report was the amount of the value of guns, drugs, and illegal currency that's seized also are the product of this. What happens to all that?
Well, it'll be for a court to determine. Generally, when items are seized as relation to evidence to a case, it's ultimately up to a judge to determine what will happen to it as a result.
Not coffee money, in other words. Thank you for your service on this. Is an incredible service, and it's a much more expansive and useful than what I had anticipated it actually being. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Mundy.
Yeah, John, unfortunately, we can't sell the drugs as an extra stream of revenue, so don't go there. Year over year, and it may be in here and I'm just not seeing it, is the grant the same as last year? And the same question then for our match?
I apologize, I do not have the answer, but we can get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, I think this is a wonderful grant. It just continues to show what opportunities we have in our county when the city and the county work collaboratively on one major cause. So I'm certainly in favor of this wonderful grant that we continue to get. And thank you, and all of the officers for all of your excellent work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. Any other questions, comments? Assistant Chief Allen, here's what I'd ask. As more information comes available, if we could just bring this one back next month with a more detailed update,
Absolutely.
and we'll move forward on this one.
Absolutely. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Madam Clerk, if we can call item G1, please.
Item G1, update regarding 4th Police District proposal.
Thank you. And Assistant Chief Allen, I know at the last meeting there was some information that was requested that was not included in the information that was sent to us. Do we have that information to present today?
Yes, I believe, did you send it to?
I forwarded them the information at the last minute.
Okay. So the information has been forwarded to you all at the last minute, yes?
But we do have it at this moment.
Just now.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll let you bring up the item and say some comments, and then I understand there's some council members who have some comments, and then we'll go to them and come back.
Absolutely.
You have the floor, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be brief. Thank you for having me back, Councilmember Taylor, Chair Taylor, and fellow council members. So the first item, let me get this to the presentation.
Assistant Chief, I do apologize, but I've been informed that I'm going to turn to Councilmember Burke for a motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. Because information was requested in December and we've all had a chance to read the information for the presentation today, and it does not include that information, and I understand that in the last few minutes some information came through. Since we have not had a chance to review this last-minute information, I'm going to ask that we move this to next month's agenda.
Well, and what we'll do, Councilmember Burke, that's a motion. We'll go through the democratic process. Is there a second to continue this item?
I have a comment, but not a second.
Is there no second? So the motion dies for a second. We'll have the discussion, and then we'll go back to Councilmember Burke for more. Councilmember Mundy.
I was going to say, in my recollection, the information that I remember asking for was a breakdown between violent crime and nonviolent crime as opposed to line items. So with that in mind, the information was included in the presentation that I remember asking for last time.
Okay, so look, we'll move forward with the presentation. We'll hear as much information as we can in order to make an informed decision. That is our responsibility to our citizens, and we'll do that today, and then we'll entertain a motion from there.
Okay.
Assistant Chief Allen, you have the floor.
Absolutely. So one of the items that was discussed during last month's meeting was an overview of the city and how the proposed District 4 looks within the city. So this is an overall map showing the 4 police districts as it will look. As you see, District 4 is there in the central area of the city. If you notice, there's a small green area within that District 4. That is the downtown bike patrol area, but the rest of it is, the yellow is the District 4 area. So that's the overview of the entire city and the breakdown of how the districts look within the city. So we looked at calls for service. These numbers on this slide are specifically from 2022. So ultimately, our calls for service are very wide-ranging. It's hard to kind of put them all on a PowerPoint because there's a 3-page list of all the calls that we respond to. But I think one of the questions that came up was the square mileage. So we looked at the square mileage by each district size. So if you look on that map or on the pie chart up there, District 1's about 43, 44 miles. District 2 is is approximately 42 miles, District 3 is 43, and then this new District 4 is approximately 5 square miles. If you look at Part 1 crime specifically, so these are measured, these are the more serious types of offense, and these are reported to the Uniformed Crime Reporting System. So these include homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, just the more serious types of offenses. So that second pie chart looks at the Part 1 crimes divided by district for 2022. We didn't use 2023 because at the time of this, we didn't have all the 2023 data yet collected. So that shows the number of those crimes per district. And then the third chart shows the total calls for service. So this is all the calls in each district broken up by code. And so you can see there the District 4 is a small footprint within our city, 4% of the city, but it does generate 11% of Part 1 crimes and 14% of all calls for citywide service. So this next chart shows, we looked at it per capita and within the square mileage of the city. So total calls per square miles, if you look at that chart there, District 4, the calls are 4 times higher than any other district overall if you're comparing square mileage. Calls per square mile in District 1 are 1,232, in District 2, 1,269, in District 3, 1,235, and in District 4, 5,187 calls per square mile. And then if you look at the crime rate, the total calls for service per capita, so based on population size in District 4 are more than double than any other district. And so that's broken down there. The blue shows the Part 1 crimes per 1,000 residents. And then the green are just typical calls for service. So they can be anything from a traffic crash to a disturbance and anything in between there. So that crime rate or that call volume is significant there as well. One of the questions that came up was related to staffing. So we could not provide right now until we sit down and dissect the logistics of this as to how many officers are going to staff this. We've pulled no area from District 2. So District 2, the map that you saw in the first slide will remain exactly as it is. And so no officers are going to be pulled from the District 2 footprint. Calls are going to be pulled from District 1 and District 3. So that's where we anticipate utilizing our resources. So if you look at our staffing right now, we will still have the same number of officers on duty every single day. We are staffed with 2 platoons currently, a day shift and a night shift. And those platoons average 51 officers per platoon. So there'll be the same number of officers patrolling our city, even with this new district. It's just pulling the calls in and kind of creating that specialized footprint. In looking at our calls for service and how we respond, we believe operationally this is the best way to meet the needs of the citizens of the city. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
And I just would note, council members, that there are a number of people here today that I have a list of who are here in the audience in support of this item. I just want to say thank you all for being here today. There is not an opportunity to speak. This is not a public comment period, but your presence is duly noted and appreciated, so thank you. Councilmember Mundy.
I don't know who to address this question to, but this is an information item. Is this something that the council votes on to create, or is that operational?
I can answer that question for you, Councilman Mundy. This is an informational item to council. It does not require a vote of council. The police department is using this to inform you and the community of how they want to best utilize the officers that we have to respond to the issues that they are dealing with in the community. So we're willing to answer any questions you have, but will not require a vote by council.
I think that's great, and I think in the past we probably voted on some things we didn't need to, so the more we can move operational items out of the council and to the operational people, I think that's a process improvement. So thank you.
Well, I don't want to start anything, but I got to say, you know, we're the elected body, and it's our responsibility to assist staff with making the decisions, and we will do that.
Yes.
But is there anyone else that needs to be heard on this item? We'll go to Councilmember Larson, then I know Councilmember Burke has some questions and comments.
This is maybe for the city manager then, but what is the implementation time of this? What is scheduled for this?
So right now, we would hope to implement by summer. That would be our goal, but until we sit down and really look at the logistics of how we make this work, I can't give you an approximate, but that's my goal, is to have it up and running by summer.
So we have a facility that's going to have to be created.
It'll be housed out of the main police department at 725 North Cherry Street, so there's no additional expenses at all to the citizens.
Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, and thank you, Chief Allen, for this presentation. Because when we met last time, and we were told that we need this additional district because we've had as high as 37,000 calls for service in the downtown area. I wanted a breakdown to see what kinds of calls, and I know that you did break it down by Part 1 crimes, but I wanted to be more specific. So I'm looking at what I just received within the last, I guess maybe 20 minutes, I don't know, but this is the first time I've had a chance to look at it. Other miscellaneous calls in 2023. 11,102. Can you tell me what those calls are?
So they could be anything from what we consider to be a security check. So a security check can be anything wide-ranging from a manhole cover loose in the roadway to check for a vehicle left unoccupied in the road. It all depends on how the communications dispatchers enter those calls. Typically, if an officer is driving down the street and they see something that they need to stop and get out of their car and investigate, they will initially check out on what we call a security check until they figure out what it might be. And it may remain a security check, but it may turn into something else. But typically, those type calls would be largely security checks or self-initiated type activities.
And that's a lot for them to be nonviolent crimes. And then I do see some other calls that I would categorize as security checks, like open doors, open windows, that we have included in this report. And so I just think that we really need to have a little more time. I'm glad that this is an information item, but just to really digest what kinds of calls are we receiving that would warrant an additional district. And as I said before, in the district or the ward that I serve, a lot of violent crime calls are coming in. And if we're going to increase or add a district or some additional sources, then I would like to see it in the Northeast Ward. Thank you.
Councilmembers, well, I see Councilmember Scipio, then we'll come back to you, Councilmember McIntosh.
Yes. One of the things that is on my heart to say today is that it looks like this is the downtown district. And I just have to be pretty honest with what I've heard. There are a lot of people who believe we've given a lot of attention to downtown, and they get more resources than other places in the city. However, we were intentional over 20 years ago to revitalize downtown. And with that came lots of businesses and people living there. So though many people don't go downtown on a regular basis, there's a lot of activity going on downtown, particularly at night. Now, one of the things we cannot do is legislate people's behavior. And there has been a significant increase in bad behavior, particularly at our bars. People like going out, living their life on their own terms without thinking about others. So when you have an increase in crime and behavior somewhere, we need to look at that. I am just so happy that our police department is looking at ways to increase service across the city efficiently. And I believe that's what this District 4 does. It doesn't take away from any of the other districts in terms of service. It just happens to give more attention where we're seeing an increase in bad behavior. Our law enforcement is just that, enforcing the laws. We cannot dictate people's behavior. That's social. And until we as a community speak to each other and say, I don't like that behavior, Kevin, you're going to have to do better. We have to police ourselves. It's not our police department that can stop crime when we don't even know who's doing it and when they're going to do it. So I'm very much in favor of this because it's coming from those who are commissioned to provide public safety. And it's their job to do that. So I'm very much in favor of it.
Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. Councilmember McIntosh.
I think we're all really well aware of the restraints and constraints that we have in terms of resources, particularly bodies, and budgets are always a constraint. I think if this proposal were to shift resources from one area to another, I think we'd have a lot of opposition, myself included in that. But seeing how this is really just a reorg, it doesn't require any additional money, doesn't require any additional bodies. It's just orienting people to be in places where they're going to be comfortable figuring out where the hotspots are and to deal with them closely. Community-oriented policing, this is kind of, to me, how you do that well. So to me, this is a game changer, especially since it doesn't require additional resources. So I am very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Councilmember Mundy.
The other thing I just want to mention about downtown, your point is well taken that we have put a lot of money and resources into building this back up, but whether you go downtown or whether you live downtown or not, you're reaping a lot of benefits because we put downtown, we put heads in beds, we put butts in seats. This is how we get our additional taxes, one of the few ways that cities can get taxes that the state allows us to do. So if we don't curtail the violent behavior, what we're going to find is professional meeting planners will no longer plan a meeting to Winston-Salem. One of the first things that they look at is what's the crime rate in the area. They don't want to put their people in harm's way. So I think we need to keep in mind that not only for our own citizens' safety, but for the safety of our visitors and the long-term health of our downtown economic engine, we've got to do what's right for downtown.
Councilmember Burt.
Thank you. The last time you presented, you said that we have a bike patrol downtown, foot patrol. The auxiliary bike control will be coming soon. And I know that we have the bar patrol augmentation. How many of our officers work the bar patrol?
The bar patrol, and let me ask, I apologize. Come on. That's Captain Gates, District 1 Captain, so it's staffed about 60% of the time. So one of our biggest challenges right now as an agency is we have a lot of extra duty opportunities and they're just not getting filled. So none of them, I think with the exception of the downtown foot patrol, that one tends to get staffed the most, but the rest of them don't get staffed 50, 60%, if that.
And are we paying for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. City Manager, you've heard the conversation clearly. Councilmember Burke has requested some time to review the information that was presented today. Mm-hmm. My question to you would be, is there anything that would prohibit us from, as we move forward, considering everything that has been said this afternoon, letting Councilmember Burke have time to review the information and bring this item back to committee on next month for public safety?
No, that'd be fine.
Are there any objections? Thank you.
May I ask really quick, is there anything else you would like, other information for me to bring next month, or if you'll relay that to me as you look through the information, I'd be happy to present that.
Thank you so much for making that offer. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Allen. Thank you. Is there any further business that should be brought forth for consideration for the good of the order? Seeing no further business, we'll hereby consider this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you.